Please join me in welcoming Senator Chuck Grassley.
Well, I'm surely glad you folks are here to discuss the issue that you're here to discuss, but also I hope maybe some of the things that we're hearing today, if they turn out like it looks like they might turn out, that there'd be a little less need for this. But we're going to have to wait for a long time and not be surprised by what people from Cuba and Russia and other countries that want influence in the Western Hemisphere do. So now I'm going to go to my prepared remarks, and I wish I could be with you a little longer after this, but with this speeding up of getting nominations approved with only 2 hours of debate, you got to consider a vote can come almost any time, and we have 2 votes scheduled. But I want to tell you, thank you for meeting, and thank you for inviting me. And it's nice that the Center for a Secure Free Society is hosting such a very timely event. The relationships between Venezuela and our foreign adversaries, such as China, Iran, Russia, presents perhaps the greatest security threat from within our hemisphere. In February, a letter that's already been referred to, Cruz and I sent to the Trump administration. The letter was expressing our concern that Venezuela has become the staging location for terrorist groups such as Hezbollah and their affiliates, as well as agents of Cuba, Iran, China, and Russia. And of course, the United States government and our people must stay very vigilant. And your seminar here will help in that process. Our view is that effective border security is not restricted only to addressing illegal immigration, human trafficking, and the flow of illegal drugs, although stopping all those things are very, very important as well. Border security in the 21st century then must also prevent the cross-border movement of terrorists and bad actors who pose a security threat to our homeland. Congress needs to modernize immigration policies in a way that prioritizes the threat of special interest aliens and terrorists, especially given the situation in Venezuela. This means expediting the removal of terrorists, increasing information sharing between the intelligence community and immigration enforcement, and streamlining the process of removing national security threats. We must prevent Hezbollah from moving people, weapons, and drugs across our border, either through ports of entry or obviously anywhere, including in between. With up to 4 million Venezuelans fleeing their homeland, and you can understand why they're doing that, we have to address the potential for state and non-state actors to infiltrate those groups. Federal agencies should commit to additional and appropriate scrutiny in the visa screening process and to the refugees and asylum admissions process, both of those processes. Border security is just one aspect of national security. We must be vigilant against all bad actors who seek to undermine American security. However, given the continued presence of, and of course, the power that is evidenced by China, Iran, and Russia, their influence in South America must be constantly watched. We need to be particularly concerned about these foreign adversaries. China's non-traditional influence against the United States and other Western democracies ought to be a growing concern. It is to me. From Confucius institutes in American universities to trade secret espionage, the Chinese Communist Party seeks to take advantage of our open society to advance its own interests. Using tools like debt trap diplomacy, state-directed technology giants, and an increasingly assertive foreign policy, China seeks to undermine our country's power on a global stage, and we know from the 100-year mission that they're on to be foremost in the world and to stay foremost. The federal government, including the United States Senate, is becoming more engaged and aware of this concern, and the timing is critical as China's influence continues to grow in Venezuela and other pockets of South America. China is Venezuela's largest creditor, and in turn, Venezuela is the largest regional buyer of Chinese military equipment. These connections are certainly relevant as we address our national security interests. Russia's role in undermining the United States has been most evidenced through its interference in the 2016 presidential election, but that, as we know, from the disinformation campaign going way back to probably 1917, is nothing new. The book, The New Cold War, by Edward Lucas, warned of Russia's intentions even 10 years ago. And as the title implies, the tactics we've seen from Putin have echoes of an earlier time that you already heard me allude to. What would you then expect from a Russia led by a KGB thug? Today, Russia supplies military aid and financial support to Venezuela's armed forces, be it through disinformation and the campaigns connected with that, or supplying aid to vulnerable and dangerous nations. I will continue to seek answers as to why and how the Russian government and other bad actors intend to attack our democracy. Lastly, Iran's presence in Venezuela draws immediate concern about Hezbollah's growth and influence in the Western Hemisphere. In a letter that Senator Cruz and I sent to the Trump administration, we made clear how Hezbollah's growing influence near the United States could lead to increased efforts of money laundering and trafficking in drugs within our borders. These criminal activities are just part of the global and increasingly sophisticated threat from Hezbollah. So we must work to strengthen our laws and weigh options on how to best combat such threats. And I don't think it's too late to still say the concern that our fourth president of the United States had, James Monroe, what he expressed in the Monroe Doctrine. We have recognized since then that events in this hemisphere have particular bearing on our nation's security, as now also a bearing on our prosperity. The involvement of countries that have proven hostile to U.S. security and national interests in our own backyard. And that has obviously set off alarm bells, or you folks wouldn't be gathered here today. And for those that it haven't set off alarm bells, it surely should. We should do whatever we can to curb malign foreign influence in Latin America, working with our allies in the region. This seminar is an important step in understanding that problem. So I thank you all for your concern, but more importantly, to the leadership of this group. Thank you very much.